All right. Welcome to the first meeting of 2024 for the Measure DD Community Coalition. My name is Adrian Cotter. I am one of three people who are on the agenda committee. It's myself, John Bowers, and there's Myra Redmond, who's under somebody else's name. As we go through this meeting, I think pretty much everyone's a regular here. If you can raise your hands to ask a question, that would be great. Using the Zoom tool is best. But if for some reason we don't see you or call on you, please feel free to come off mute and talk, because sometimes we do miss. In a second, we'll do introductions, agenda changes and additions. I do have one addition to the agenda, thanks to James and Jenny, and then we'll do a quick review of minutes. So let's jump into introductions. So I will call people. If you can just give your name and affiliation, that would be great. So I will start with Mandolin.
Good evening, everyone. Mandolin Kadira Redmond, Executive Director with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation.
Bill.
Bill Threlfall from Waterfront Action.
Naomi.
Naomi Schiff, Oakland Heritage Alliance and the Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt.
John.
Hi, John Bowers, Lake Merritt Institute, and I have to apologize. I made some very detailed arrangements to have access to the one device in our home that has a video component to it, and I made the arrangement to have access to that device on the third Monday of the year, of the month. Well, guess what? Martin Luther King holiday has totally screwed that up. I don't have access to the device that has video. I apologize for that.
All good, John. Sorry for the schedule shift. Rick.
Rick Rickard, Bike East Bay.
Sue Chin.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sue Chin Yong. I'm the Assistant Director of Bureau of Design and Construction in Department of Public Work. Terry and I work in the same team.
Welcome. Terry.
Hi, Terry Fashing, Acting Manager for the Watershed and Stormwater Management Division and the DD Bond, Acting Manager for that.
D.
D. Rosario, East Bay Regional Park District.
David.
That's orderly and that is humane. Right now, the president is trying to get Republicans.
David.
David Walford, co-chair of the Rotary Nature Center Friends at Lake Merritt.
Jenny.
Good evening, Jenny Gerard, co-founder of the DD Coalition, co-convener of Lake Merritt Advocates. Recently stepped down as co-convener of Lake Merritt Weed Warriors, but I'm still hanging in there, and Lake Merritt Conservancy.
Kira.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kira Pasco, and I am with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation.
Sam.
I am Sam Bird, and I'm on the board of the Essex overlooking the lake. Also participant of a number of different organizations, the Conservancy, Weed Warriors, East Bay for Everyone, a number of different groups.
Bob and Myra.
Ira Redmond, LMI, Weed Warriors, and Agenda Committee.
And Bob Redmond, Essex Community Action Committee, and Lake Merritt Conservancy.
Katie.
Katie Noonan, co-chair of Rotary Nature Center Friends and LMI board member.
Lee.
Lee Orick, Lake Royal Apartments on the lake, interested citizen. And I do a little bit of photography. This guy is from last Friday, Lake Temescal.
Nice. Hazel.
Hi, Hazel Tesoro, Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation.
Mike.
Mike Perlmutter, City of Oakland Watershed Specialist. I work with Terry and I do some support for the DD Coalition.
Joshua.
Hi there, I'm Josh, interested citizen and volunteer with Friends of Mandela Parkway, Friends of Ramondi Park, and Friends of Willow Park in West Oakland.
Rhonda. Rhonda Nelson. We'll jump to Stephen Acker.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stephen Acker. I am a bond manager in the finance department. I work closely with Terry and Sue Chan, as well as any other public works or DOT or housing folks that deal with any of the city's bonds. So I'm excited to join you all here tonight.
Oh, welcome. James.
James Van with Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt and an original member of the Measure DD Coalition. I would like to be recognized to present an item for the next meeting's agenda at some point tonight. Thanks.
Sure. And Vince.
Hey everyone, Vince Geronimo, another interested citizen. I live here adjacent Lake Merritt for the past 14 years. Thanks.
Welcome. And I'll just give it out to Rhonda one more time. Oh, okay. Rhonda can't seem to unmute my screen. Gotcha.
If I could just say that Rhonda just sent me a direct message saying she can't seem to unmute, but she is a board member of the East Bay Rowing Club.
Thanks. So we are now at agenda changes. James, did you wanna...
my hand is up.
Yeah, I was just calling on you.
It just in terms of introductions, Mandolin is she introduced herself with the Parks and Recs Department Commission, but Rhonda's actually he's on the meeting as a staff to the DD Coalition, so I think her introduction should be what her position is with regard to the DD Coalition in future introductions.
James, was that for me, Mandolin?
Yes.
Yes, I am no longer a commissioner, just to be clear. I am a staff person with Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation as the executive director.
Okay.
And in support of our staff that is supporting this community meeting in administration.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have that clarity.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I have a question then. You mentioned in support of staff, Mandolin, and initially you were the staff, and I might understand that now that the staff has expanded, Kira, for example, are taking on a role and a representative role in relationship to the Measure DD work.
Well, Hazel is your administrative support. So anything technical around this Zoom's meeting this evening and preparing the draft meeting minutes with support from the city and Michael Perlmutter to distribute them. And then providing the web recording on YouTube. That's always nice to do a nice reset to make sure we're clear about that. Kira is a new staff member with our team who is just very interested in what's going on with the lake. So some of you have met her in other capacity. She is our development director. So she's here to learn and be a part of our team. And we just wanted to, I just wanted to come just to catch up and learn.
Great. In terms of agenda changes and additions, so Jenny spoke to me about this at a recent meeting, and James sent an email about the fact that we need to do our annual choice for agenda committee members. So again, myself, John Bowers, and Myra Redmond are agenda committee members, and we have a year term, as it were. We've all been doing it for at least a year or two now. I can't remember. I've been doing it maybe since the beginning of the pandemic. Anyway, if you are interested in being an agenda committee member, you can reach out to myself or probably really almost anyone out there today and ask about it. So we'll do that choosing next month. And people, John and Myra, can say if they would be interested in continuing. James, did you have a?
Just want to know if it's appropriate to make motions tonight, or is this just to announce that it's going to be coming up at the next meeting?
This is just an announcement.
Okay.
All right. Well, John and Myra, if you want to move on, you can try to reach out and recruit someone to your cause as well.
Sorry,
but
can I just really quickly, did you mean for the next meeting in March? That's when the new
yes,
agenda committee
yes.
members, so not February but March.
Correct. Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
If I said February, sorry. Thanks.
And if there is anybody, who was it who wanted to maybe make a nomination, I'm happy to step down.
I will second that. I am willing to serve for another year, but if there's someone who is absolutely desirous of serving in this capacity, I'd be happy to step down.
I do plan to make the motion to re-elect the existing agenda committee at the next meeting.
Thanks, James.
I thought you had somebody, but James.
Well, like I said, feel free to try and recruit someone. I know there are some people who haven't served before, so. But let's move on for now. The next thing on the agenda, the review of minutes for September and November. I think we had some feedback during the creation of those, but can we move accepting of the minutes or any other comments?
I move to accept the minutes.
Second.
All right.
Hold it. I did send questions in, and I would just like to ask if my questions were answered in any revision to the minutes, or this. I found the discussions particularly about the Bay Trail from Union Point Park to be not correct, the discussion to not be correct on that. And I asked that was to either be corrected in the minutes, and I think I got an email that would be looked at, that would review the minutes of the meeting. And I just want to know if that was done, because the discussion at the meeting was quite clear that the proposed route for the Bay Trail from Union Point Park over to, what is that, 23rd Street or Park Street Bridge, was was an impossibility, that we had to drop that and go a different route, and that was not reflected in the minutes, so.
I believe we did talk about those comments. I confess that I did not go back and review. Hazel, did you confirm whether or not?
I didn't make the changes, but I will go and look at your comments again, James, and then look at the minutes and see if the changes should be made.
Then I would move a substitute motion that the minutes be held in abeyance until that review has been made and any appropriate corrections be made to the minutes.
Fair enough.
Right, and I'll just say that Hazel, if you could take a look at that and make some changes and then send those obviously to the agenda committee, but also to me, I will help review those. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll just quickly interject. I think my recollection of what happened at that meeting was that there were a number of perspectives that were presented. I'm not sure that all of those perspectives were reflected in the minutes, and that's what we should take a look at. But I don't think there was any one single position that was decided upon at the meeting.
Terry, are you going to discuss that section tonight?
Well, it is on the agenda later. Well, oh yeah, no, just during the presentation, yeah.
So maybe at that time, we can talk about the feasibility of a water trail.
That's sounds
I think
good.
that was John. John, wasn't that your concern?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
I think there are a number of approaches, and I'd like to keep all of those approaches alive for the time being, at least, because I don't think all of the information that we need to have in order to make a final decision has been made available to us.
To clarify what goes into the minutes, John, would it be accurate to say that, I mean, my recollection is that that there was one dissenting voice, and that was yours at the meeting. Was there anyone else who it seemed like the folks who expressed opinions and therefore recommendations to the city about this project, the overwhelming feeling was that we needed to abandon the section of trail that we've been working on. We did not talk in any detail about a over water trail, and we're going to talk. That sounds like a good thing to talk about tonight. But as far as saying in the minutes, can we reflect that, especially the comments that came from East Bay Regional Park District board member, D. Rosario, who's here tonight. It just, the conclusion I drew was that we just cannot proceed with that project as it was designed. And we do need to look at alternatives, and maybe those, we can say that, you expressed a dissenting opinion, and most people in the meeting recommended that we look at an upland route. And I can't remember if during that meeting you said something about a water trail, but you brought that up later. So you see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to say, how can we say what really happened in the meeting? Does that sound good? Were you the only dissenting voice?
Well, I can't speak for other people. I feel that we have not been presented with information that is adequate for us to make a final decision. I think there is more information that remains to be developed, and I was going to say this when we got to this point in our agenda tonight, but I think there are, it's fair to say that there are two parallel paths here. And we should be working on both of them. And one of them is going to drop out, and we will proceed with the one that is the preferred option of the two possibilities. But I'm not sure that we have all the information that we need to have.
Are we on this agenda item now? I thought
Yeah,
the
let's-
motion
maybe-
was simply
we're
to
not.
suspend the minutes until a review was made, and that will take care of the minutes problem. And this is going to come up in a discussion that Terry's going to have later in her comments. So I think further discussion at this point seemed to me out of order.
If I could just say that I will withdraw my second, and that you have a motion on the floor, and that if these meetings are recorded, all the opinions should be available on the recording.
Yeah, so I think we need to review the video and just check the minutes again with James' comments and John's comments on it as well. And
Can
we
I
can come
change my
back to that this
motion
month.
that we review the minutes before finalizing them?
Yeah, I think you can second James's motion.
Okay, you second James's motion.
All right. So let's move on for the moment. We'll come back to this topic in a minute. I think, Mike, you are up with the acquisitions projects manager update.
Yes, good evening, folks. I'm going to brief you on where we're at with the acquisitions program. I'm going to share a few slides and a little overview, and then I'm going to walk you through just a little mapping tool that I'm working on, and I can answer questions for you. So I'm going to just share my screen and pull this presentation up. Can folks see a slide that just says Appendix A, Oakland Trust for Clean Water?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So in the Measure DD bond, it allocated $4.5 million for the acquisition of watershed protection easements, including acquisition of high-value restorable habitat, watersheds of creek segments with presence of rainbow trout and other wildlife populations, and property of high aesthetic and water quality protection value. So that's what we're going for here. Current funding in the Series C is about $8,700,000. We are past due for spending that, but we do want to spend it quickly, but we also want to spend it wisely so that we make the best conservation purchases and outcomes. So that kind of left us a long time in this state. Of course, we can make fast decisions once we have considered the 4,872 factors. We were looking at the map of Oakland and looking at where we could make a move, and anywhere you make a move is an opportunity cost where you're not making a move somewhere else. So it left us in this kind of analysis paralysis state where we just were hesitant in how we should proceed. So we wanted to have a decision-making tool that was objective, citywide, incorporates disparate data sets, map-based and visual. So we contracted with Montrose Environmental. We worked with Robin Hunter and Dean Mortarana, and they helped us with this spatial GIS, geographic mapping tool. And we basically made a layer cake. This is the analogy. So we put all kinds of different ingredients that we wanted in this cake all together so that any particular slice that we would choose, it would have all of the ingredients and flavors we're looking for. So we overlaid conservation and equity map layers for things like high value restorable habitat, creekside parcels, rare plants and animals, expanding contiguous land conservation protections. So expanding where there's already a park, looking for parcels that are next to those parks, looking to increase equity access and benefit to equity areas. And then just to get a little bit more granular with this, these are the data sets that we actually put into the model. So there's a conservation's land network, which is a 10-county regional effort to identify the next 1 million acres that should be conserved in the uplands. So we looked at that. We looked at where the creeks are in Oakland. We looked at where there are mapped wetlands. We looked at where there's occurrence of rare, threatened, and endangered species. We looked at where East Bay Regional Park District parks are, where Oakland parks are, where there's other conserved areas in Oakland that we might be able to expand on. We looked at priority conservation areas, which was a, I think, 2016 exercise to look at what areas the city thought would be good to conserve. We looked at priority equity neighborhoods, areas that we want to increase services from the city to. We also looked at serpentine soils. Those are places where you might have more likelihood of finding some rare and endangered plants in the area. The two main drivers of this geographic, all these factors went in there, but we weighted the model heavily towards two of them. We weighted it towards this blue shapes up in the hills. That represents the Oakland portion of the Conservation Lands Network, at least for this view. And then the more so in the flats, these purple zones are the equity zones, the areas that have been mapped to show where the city could be putting its resources to try and remedy inequities in the city. So we're kind of pulling heavily on these two zones. You can see that those two zones are not overlapping. So in some ways, they kind of work against each other in the analysis, but we really wanted to make sure that we use both of them, because the Conservation Lands Network was a super robust effort, many years, many different stakeholders to identify these areas. And the equity areas are also super important in Oakland. And if anyone is going to address those areas, it's more likely that it's going to be from an Oakland effort rather than, say, a regional or statewide or some other funding source that is less granularly focused on Oakland. So those are the two biggest weights in the model. The model is map-based. We can use it to look top-down, so we can look broadly at the landscape. This is an image that shows green park areas, and it shows these yellow to purple polygons, which the model, the darker the polygon is the model is saying that's a better area to consider. We can also do it in reverse. So if a landowner says, hey, I want to donate or I want to sell a parcel, we can then look citywide, and we can look at the parcel, and we can look at the score. How does that model rate that parcel? And we can look at the components of the model and see, what might be there. That's like at a very high level. Of course, you have to ground truth all of this stuff. So, but it's just this is a tool that we're using. So at this point, we have the tool, and now we're at this stage of selecting the parcels. And the thought process for that is we have to just kind of review some feasibility. It's going to be better in a lot of cases if these parcels are not little islands, but they're part of bigger areas. So are they adjacent to other protected lands? What's their conservation value? What's the site management? Or what's the liability of owning different parcels? What's the assessed value? So is it in our range? Can we actually purchase it? Do we have any interested partners that might be interested to, say, steward the land, help us take care of it? So it's not just about making the acquisition, but it's about more of the long-term plan for the land. Do we have a willing seller? Because we could have our eye on any given parcel, but unless someone is interested in selling to us, it's a moot point. And there's going to be some other factors that we'll look in. Everything is going to be pretty site specific. So we're basically at this point that we need to identify these, negotiate the easement and sale or parcel sale. Now that we have this model, we can also pitch it to other funders and say, hey, we have some other areas we want to invest in. Do you want to partner with us, such as the Coastal Conservancy? And then we do have some future funding coming along in Series D when we get there, about $1.2 million that we could use towards this program. So at this point, I think do folks want to see the model? Should I just pull it up for you and we can look around and see what it's telling us? We can look
Quick
at any
question.
particular areas of interest.
One quick question.
Yeah.
Did you include any of the to see if there were any parcels that are in the tax deeded list that the county compiles of properties that are surplus, going to be surplus properties or auctioned off or sold off?
Yeah, that's not in our model. Our model is just looking at conservation value and looking at equity. So we're not looking at the economics in the model, but we can look at some of that in the model. We do have the list from the county of their tax defaulted properties from last year, and we're requesting it for this year. And there are some parcels on there that are of interest to us. Terry,
may I go before staff? Quick question. When we get ready in a moment to look at the models for the cost analysis, when should we anticipate the Series D kicking in terms of time frame?
We'll get to that. And I wanted to say that number that I gave Mike, I'm not sure it's correct. And I actually, that was supposed to be removed from this presentation because we don't have that final number. So I just want to state for the record that 1.2 million is not a solid number until I finish meeting with Stephen Acker to sort out all of the details, all of the financial details. So there was a mistake in some of the data I was working with. So sorry, Mike.
Funding to be determined.
Yeah. We had some earlier miscommunication. So yeah, so to be continued, but thank you, Mike, for that presentation.
Well, so I was going to show folks the map, Terry.
Yeah, great.
But I'm not sure which screen you're seeing. Which screen? Are you seeing a map on your screen?
No.
No, we're seeing PowerPoint or something.
How about now?
Now we see one, yeah.
Okay, cool. So just to kind of look at some things. So here's Oakland. There's a bunch of data that I was considering, or we've been considering. But I'll just pull up. So this first, so this is what the model is showing us as some of the highest priorities that the model has selected. These splotches here of purples and some yellows. And I'll just pull up, and I can turn some layers on and off just so you can see. I thought we had our equity layer, but here's the conservation lands network. So you can see that lands network is basically kind of ringing the top of the city. And it will make sense by looking at it in context of, here are the East Bay Regional Parks. Here are city parks in Oakland. And so now you can see that a lot of these, and we can also turn on creeks. We can see that the conservation lands network that this model so heavily draws on, and that we kind of made an Oakland version of, it's really filling in gaps. You know, it's making connections between already conserved areas. So you can imagine like this this purple area here on Blythe Way is, connecting these already acquired parklands along Redwood Road. And you can see, creeks and whatnot. So rather than looking at so many parcels, it just gives us a way to zoom in and we can do some further selection. We can look at some of these parcels have some development on them. We can look at, well, which ones are not developed, and we get a smaller set. We can look at which ones are under $1 million, and we get a smaller set. And so we can keep kind of whittling down. And this is one view of the landscape. This is one model. It's only as good as the ingredients of the model and how we've conditioned the model. There's also other models. There's, what we know about the landscape as, people with experience and expertise. And that's another model. There's opportunities, as I think James was asking about, with tax deferred properties, which is another thing we can look at. We're working with East Bay Regional Park District to ask them, well, are there areas that you're interested in that we might be able to help with an acquisition and you could do the management of? So we're looking at, I'll just give you an example of that. So here's East Bay Regional Parks. This is Claremont Canyon Regional Preserve. And there's a really interesting situation where there's a guy who owns about, 60 to 80 parcels here. And many of them are tax defaulted. So there's thought of, well, could this area be expanded for Claremont Canyon? There's also a city park in that same area. And so could we expand the city park by a few parcels that are adjacent to it at a pretty reasonable cost? So we're at sort of a high level right now. The next thing we have to do is just kind of reality check these ideas of, like, make a short list and start investigating these parcels and talking to landowners. And some of that work has already started, and we have some meetings with some landowners coming up as well. But I'm happy to answer questions at this point. I see Naomi has her hand up.
I was just going to ask you to show the waterfront, because I thought I saw something there, but then you moved up into the hills. And
yeah, the waterfront is
there was some parcel that looked like you had it flagged, but
yeah. So I'll just take off. We'll just start. So we can. Here is the waterfront without so many filters on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see when we start taking out what's already developed, we're left with a lot less. When we take out what's affordable to us, we're left with even less. So we will scour this, but it's pretty challenging in this area because a lot has been developed. It's also expensive, and there's just a lot of constraints.
Thank you.
Vince?
Oh, hey, good presentation. Curious about the priority equity neighborhoods. Where do you get your data? Is it the OakDOT geographic data?
It is, and I'm not sure, I had it on this map. I'm not sure what happened to it, but I'll get it back on the map. But I showed you that visual of it, but it is that same project, the OakDOT Equity Toolbox.
Thank you.
Terry, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Mike and I have talked, we really don't have very much money left. So it is important for us to just quickly go through this process and try to find something to, you know, so that we can spend the remaining funds. We have so little funding, and we'll see how much Series D we have, but we just don't have that much given the cost of land. And so hopefully we'll be able to come with some recommendations soon, now that the modeling is over. I mean, it's hard to say soon, of course, because you have to have willing sellers. But I am interested in us moving to the next step as quickly as possible with this. And so, you know, Mike's nodding his head. Yes, that's a shared goal. And so, you know, that will be what we'll be working on.
I mean, it does also set us up though for future funding, future opportunities. If someone comes over to us and says, you know, how would you have a conservation program in Oakland? We've done a lot of deep thinking on this. So, you know, this is the first bite of the apple, or the next bite of the apple, if you will. And hopefully we can keep biting that apple, or find a better metaphor.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation, Mike. David, one last question and we should move on.
Thanks, Adrian. Thank you, Michael, for the good report.
You're on mute, David.
Thank you. I was saying thank you, Michael, for the good report. And I think that now, is it possible for us to bring up and recommend additional factors to consider, even though you've already completed the model, perhaps under the etc. section of the model? As you were talking, you described several layers of the model that all made sense, and kudos to you for coming up with them. You mentioned one of them focusing and the need to focus on local area because regionally it may not be addressed. Mm-hmm. Understandably, good. However, because of the broad implications of climate change, there are a number of efforts and activities being taken by regional agencies and other local agencies that are meant to sort of show up, including a number of those other areas regarding equity. So if there are activities going on in Oakland, that could be a layer to look at. And the activity could be being done by the Coastal Commission or someone else, or a local group in East Oakland, for example. But in other words, perhaps a portion of the money could be a layer that could be looked at is the importance of supporting an effort that was underway for conservancy.
For sure. Yeah. We just have to have a way to know about them.
Thanks. I really appreciate that comment. And I was on the lookout. There's an effort between the city of Alameda and the city of Oakland to apply for some funding, and they were looking at trying to acquire some waterfront property that's there was one of the parcels that when Michael showed it, he said we can't afford it. And so when we looked at it, the cost of it is so much money. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we're thinking along those same lines as we have other conversations about acquisitions that others are looking into. I got kind of excited, hopeful, and then my hopes were dashed when we realized how much it would cost to acquire this really big parcel that would be great to acquire. It's just too expensive right now.
And I think Terry D. Rosario messaged me, and I think this is what he's asking about, the San Leandro Creek Trail from Hegenberger to 98th along the Alameda County flood control property. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
that's what D is talking about. Yeah, so
right. Yeah, so we'll keep talking.
Thank you. So Terry, do you want to take away your report?
Yeah. So I wanted to say that I invited Sue Chin and Stephen Acker here. I do have bad news, and that is that we are not ready yet with our financial information. We know how important it is to provide a financial report as requested. We want to be transparent about our current situation. Due to the holidays, and we have another vacancy in the watershed division, which has been difficult. And so therefore we are missing 3 out of 8 positions. And we've been tasked with critical watershed projects that are really unprecedented for our team. We understand the significance of the information that we need to provide to you, and we're working towards completing that information as soon as possible. And to ensure that we can provide this at our next meeting, we're going to be partnering with the finance department, including Stephen Acker, to compile the data to prepare an accurate financial report for our projects under Measure DD. We really value our partnership with the coalition, and we are committed to fulfilling our obligations. We'll keep you updated on our progress, and we'll provide financial report by the next meeting. I know I have said that before, but now I do have more support. I have needed more support, and I am going to get that. So I just wanted to let you know that I don't have the project table with it. We will be updating that project table. Instead of just including the updates, we're going to add back in the financial information, but I'm going to review how to do that accurately with Stephen Acker and our fiscal person who helps with this work. We'll also be working on, and that is that simplified spreadsheet that you all asked for. We're working on how we're going to bring you a vision and strategy for spending the Tranche D funds. I need to work with the Project and Grants Management Division as well as the Finance Department to put that together. And it has not been possible to do that until now. And I do apologize. And the outcomes of my talks with Treasury and Budget are that we are going to work much more closely together now that we're through the holidays. And yeah, so I just have to tell you that. And then what I can do is launch into the project updates, but I'm sure you'll have some comments and questions. So I'll pause. Okay. And so Stephen Acker introduced himself and Sue Chin Young. As I mentioned, I will be working directly with both of them, and we will make progress on this. So I really do apologize. So the next thing is that I can just go through the updates. Let's see. Sorry, I thought I had it up here. Okay. I'm going to share. Okay. Let me share. Oh, yeah. So I go to the next. Okay. So thanks to OPRF for your assistance. As we discussed earlier, it's really Hazel who is actually being paid by Measure DD funds to continue supporting us to hold these meetings. So, but thank you so much to Mandolin for being here tonight. And thank you to the agenda committee, especially Adrian, who helps out so much with the our website and other things. Whoops. And Mike indicated that he'll catch up on the map work for this winter. So in the Lake Merritt water quality and restoration and channel categories, we've mentioned this before, but the Lakeside Green Street project and Snow Park, that is basically done, and they're using remaining funds for irrigation work and closeout items. So that's continuing to proceed. For the decomposed granite path around Lake Merritt, council approved a contract extension and amendment. The purchasing department is reinstating the purchase order. Once reinstated, the project manager can resume work with the contractor on this project. So we've made quite a bit of progress since the last meeting. The project manager is working on obtaining an updated quote, and most degraded parts of the path will be prioritized since the $300,000 budget will not fund the initial $660,000 quote. So that's an update there. Just stop me if you have, oh, James.
James.
Yes. Are we, I made a suggestion at the last meeting that maybe the material that could be used can just be regular concrete and even lightweight concrete, which would lower the price and be able to go much further than attempting to match or to do a complicated admixture for the trail. And was there any follow-up on that? I think you said you would talk to the project manager about that that recommendation. Is there any feedback on that?
Right, I am sorry about that. I did not, and I will do that tonight before the night is over. I will send an email out about this to the project manager and mention that, you know, that is a recommendation coming from you. Sorry about that. Okay, any other comments or questions?
I also had mentioned that Public Works itself did a repair job, a replacement job over near Fairland about 2 or 3 years ago, which they did with concrete and it came out excellently. Maybe could ask if anybody knows about how that was done, and not that Public Works staff would do this one, but I think just try and get away from that complicated admixture of materials.
Okay.
Naomi has her hand up.
Naomi.
Just a quick follow-up, supporting what James is saying, but the years will continue to go by and this project will end, but the sidewalks will still be there and they will still deteriorate the paths. And so it would maybe be good if there was a plan for how to move forward on maintenance of these paths over the long term, even if it's something as simple as saying, let's use concrete or whatever. But I'm no expert on the technology. I'm just saying that is gonna have to happen so that people don't fall down.
Vince, then David.
Hey, thanks. I do a fair bit of running, and I'm always around this lake. And in addition to the concrete scalp that's happening there, just towards the pagoda where this is located, the photo here, there's a portion of the wall that supports the trail that's fallen in. It's unraveling and can only get worse. So something to think about when you look at the quote is to see if there's going to be any repairs to the retaining wall or the wall along the water's edge. Thank you.
David.
Thank you. I almost hesitate to say this here, but in my role as co-chair of the Rotary Nature Center Friends and doing the work that we do in addressing these issues and listening to this conversation, I will share that one vision or approach is that we have that path that needs to be maintained and ongoing for the rest of our duration, and involving the people and the community in that process more so than why do we have to water down the concrete as opposed to raise the $300,000? Plus, it has to go on and on and on. So again, it may not be here and now, but the development of a way of capturing, the connection, I guess, with that business district that's located right there on East 18th Street, and the visitors and the people who live there somehow, when I look at this picture here, the map, the aerial view, that's what comes to my mind.
Thank you. Okay. So I'll go ahead and move on here. Right. So Lake Merritt Channel. Seems like it's missing the first thing. Okay. So as you all know, we are looking at putting in a new fence around this section of Peralta Park, as shown in this picture. And we're working on that, making progress. We'll come with more of a fiscal description of this at the next meeting, but we're looking to get started in late spring to start installing the fence around this area. Midsummer would be encampment closures. The site would be secured then so that the irrigation could be repaired, and planting would start mid to late summer. All work would be completed by the end of 2024. So that's what we're working on. That is a tentative plan that has not been fully approved yet. In other words, all of everything that is not in place to take all of the steps to achieve this by the end of 2024. But the project manager, Rebecca Dar, is working on this very diligently. And so I am feeling really good about this moving forward now. So the fence would be the same type as the one shown right in this picture that is protecting the wetland area. There would be 4 access gates, and those would be open during the day and locked at night. There'd be signage regarding hours of operation and no trespassing when closed. And the total estimated cost would be $2.7 million. So as I mentioned, we're working on the details of this, but this is just a little update about what we're really hoping to achieve here. Yes, Jenny.
Terry, thank you for presenting this. Of that 2.7 million, is any of it being asked of Orton, the developers, the contractors working on the renovation of the Oakland Auditorium?
I don't know, and I will ask.
Where is the money to come from?
It would be Measure DD.
May I add, we should find out about, they mentioned that they had intentions on developing their own plan around safety and the unhoused for that area when they addressed the DD Coalition a year or more ago. So perhaps you could look into that as well.
Well, I will definitely bring this up. The issue is that right, I understand why you're bringing that up. We have our permits that we can't get out of until something is done. And so if we can find partnership with some other funder, then that would be great. But at this point, at the last meeting, our director did attend and did the coalition members who were present expressed support for the city to go ahead and use Measure DD funds to take all of the steps we need to take to finally, achieve the plant success that we must achieve in order to close out our permits with the water board. And so we will come to the next meeting with our proposal, but we did think that we got the recommendation from the DD Coalition at our last meeting to proceed with funding this work with Measure DD. And what we're looking into is what can't we fund, what are we not allowed to fund with Measure DD, such as maybe a security guard that might be needed. And so we are looking at, it may not be possible to fund a security guard with Measure DD funds. So we're looking at other ways that we could fund a security guard. Go ahead.
Carrie, thank you. And thank you for this proposal. Is the plan to essentially create gates at the tunnels, the overpass areas? So like the homeless camp that's under the 14th Street would continue, or is the plan to remove that? And likewise, there's that pathway going under 10th.
Can you see this picture right here? There's this one proposed gate on the other side, or right over there. So it would mean that there would be no homeless encampment under the bridge on this side of the channel.
Okay.
This wouldn't change anything about the homeless encampments that are on the pathway under this side of the channel, the other side. So the other gates, looks like there's a proposed gate about right here. I'm not sure. I will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, right over here, and then right over here, and right over here. Yeah, do you see those G's? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Rebecca Dar has been doing a really good job of working on this. So now we move to waterfront trails. So luckily the Fruitvale Land Crossing Bay Trail segment is basically done, except for just some punch list items, a guardrail that was incorrectly fabricated. So that's been great. So Estuary Park, we're moving along. CEQA is done, 90% design documentation anticipated for early February. Phase 1 construction target would be for summer of 2025, and that would be using Series D funding. Planning for funding project construction with, so I'm working with the project manager, and we'll be working with Stephen Acker on figuring out how we can sell Series D funds so that we could do construction of phase 1 and move towards construction of phase 2 as well. So actually, with our remaining funds that we have in that category, I think we can start with construction of phase 1. It would be phases 2 and 3 that would require Series D funding. And so that's an update on that. And now for this one, the project manager put this into the report for the November 20th meeting. This project will be canceled due to excessive costs. John, I recognize that we just had a discussion about this and we can talk about it more. We could say that the project as it had been envisioned originally is being canceled and we're looking at alternatives. The replacement would be to pursue bikeways via city streets and sidewalks for pedestrians, awaiting final city determination to cancel the waterfront trail connection and approve replacement via city streets and sidewalks. So we're working on that. So we'll carry the discussion that we have here tonight back, and we'll look into, I know that we'll receive a recommendation at least from John Bowers to look at an overwater trail. And so we'll hopefully tonight we can get some clarity from the coalition as to what your recommendation is for us moving forward with this project. It sounds like the project manager really felt that we were going to be moving forward with a trail connection on the city streets. But yeah, we can talk about that in more detail. So just really quick, we do not have an update on the East Bay Regional Park District trail sites. I will work on getting that for the next time too. So we just have these regular updates that we have on these projects that we got last time. I will reach out to the folks at East Bay Regional Park District to better understand where we are with all of these projects, or see if what progress is being made. So moving on to Glen Echo Creek Restoration Project, we do not have an update on that. Because of how busy we've been with all of our urgent storm drainage repair projects, we have put that on hold, but we're going to try to start up again in April. So we'll provide an update once we get started again. And we have Beaconsfield branch at Sassel Creek. That one is, may never be funded by Measure DD because of the amount that we don't have enough remaining. So Cortland Creek Restoration Project is moving along. Not a lot has changed, but construction is underway. The channel work was completed. Revegetation is totally underway, and trails, benches, fences, and signs will be installed. That project manager actually went to PRAC and got permission to put in the benches and fences and trails, and she's working on securing the creek protection permit that is needed and the minor conditional use permit. So that's an update on that. And acquisitions, we gave you a little presentation on that, on the GIS model. Mike is continuing to work on how the landfill closure could be accomplished at Dunsmuir Chabot, and coordinating with city partners on reducing development pressure on vacant creekside and other lands with natural resource value. So, and looking at conservation easement monitoring anticipated in February. So that is that for that presentation. Go ahead.
In that last round, that last slide, the very last bullet point that popped up, was that representative of Michael's earlier presentation? Conservation easement monitoring anticipated in February?
No, that is actually not something that is being funded by Measure DD. And I will ask Mike to provide more information on that. I think he means going out and taking a look at our existing conservation easements and seeing what shape they're in. I think it's actual physical monitoring. And so I'll get more information from him on that.
And what does the landfill closure at Dunsmuir and Chabot have to do with Measure DD?
That was something we were looking at as a way to spend remaining funds at one point, the remaining acquisition funds. Because until that landfill is closed, fully closed, then the trail that had been envisioned to connect the existing trails that are out there, it cannot be completed by East Bay Regional Park District until the landfill is closed. And so that's why we were looking into that. Got it.
Jenny?
Terry, when you come back to us, will you please tell us what falls out of the equation with this 2.7 million for the fence around Peralta Park?
Will you say that again? What falls out of the equation?
So 2.7 million is, where did that, you said that was DD funding, but what, was there something that funding was to go toward before the fence came around?
Right. Give me a minute. I will, let me just say, let's put that into something that I'll report back on next time. Because I don't have it memorized and I don't have that report pulled up. So that is an important action. Yeah, I do think it means that some of the wish list projects that had been envisioned to build, to implement using remaining funds in that funding category, there wouldn't be as much funding for those projects. Or maybe the remaining, I have to look and see, but in fact, hold on, let me just pull up one thing that I did receive today. Okay. Yeah, well, we might have, okay, we might have about 5.3 million in Series D funds left in that particular category. And so if we, and I think we have somewhere around 1 million, I'm going based on my memory right now. So we will have funding in Series D for wish list projects, but a good chunk of the funding would be used for the to finally close out the 10th Street Bridge project. And it's really a combo of the 12th Street and the 10th Street Bridge, because the permits are covering both of those projects. The mitigation wetland, and then there's some mitigation planting that's only for the 10th Street project. So yeah, we have to, we don't have any other way to fund that work. So
I will say, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
So Terry, just Thank you for, I caught you a little bit off guard. So when you come back in 2 months with this more detailed report, could you be more explicit? Because, you know, we still have our fond dreams about the wish list. So, and
Yeah,
understand about the fence. So we'll appreciate more detail, and didn't mean to catch you off guard.
yeah, no problem. And thank you so much for the question. Yeah.
I just want to try to make a quick comment towards that. In that, like, I'm really not really happy with the idea of putting a fence there and us spending Measure DD funds on it, because it is not really a capital problem. It is a people problem, right? And I know that's not your department necessarily. But you know, I would say that, like, if you go over to Laney College, they have not had a homeless encampment on the channel between the Tide Gate and 12th Street. And you know, I don't see very active patrols, but obviously they must patrol it. But like, this feels like it's more of an arrangement that should be made between the city, the Kaiser Auditorium, and Laney College to figure out how to make sure that people don't camp there. Because this committee has pointed out several times when it's been cleared, and that we recommended like there be patrols there, and James has recommended that in the past. So like, a fence feels like a stopgap, and we're footing the bill for, but it's kind of feels like only a stopgap. But that's just my personal opinion. So
Adrian, can I throw the Oakland Museum and the Oakland School District, Unified School District, in that pot as well?
Sure. Bill, go ahead.
Terry, you've been seeking our opinion about the advisability of using DD funds for this fence, but Jenny has asked a question that there isn't a good answer for right now. Basically, if we go to the store and we suddenly decide we're going to buy some steaks that we weren't planning on buying at the grocery store, what does that do to our budget, and what might we have to take out of our grocery bag in order to permit that? So we're not really having an informed discussion when inquiries result in, well, we'll get that information to you in the future. I think we'll be able to offer informed opinions in the future, but in the absence of that information, it's pretty difficult for us to work.
Understood. Okay. Any other, did you all want to talk, to look at the agenda? Do we have the 7th to 23rd on the agenda later? Let me see. Or did we want to have more of a discussion about that project? I don't think it's on the agenda later, so.
Yeah, it was not on the agenda later.
Right.
So I guess I don't know, John, if you wanted to. I feel like we sort of had the discussion before, earlier in the meeting. So it sounds like there is just another option that hasn't been fully explored, the waterfront trail.
Well, I think the basic issue here is, do we want to keep both options that have been discussed on the table, or do we want to just decide right now that there's only one option that we're willing to be a candidate for funding for Measure DD? My own opinion is that in the absence of what I would think is adequate information to address and understand all of the options, two options actually, that we should keep both of them on the table. That would be my preference. But if I'm the only one who feels that way and everybody else wants to adopt this inland alternative, which in my opinion is inconsistent with the character, the essential character of this trail is that it is a waterfront trail. And waterfront to me means adjacent to the water. And what we're talking about here is a substantial rerouting of this trail inland where you are nowhere near the water. And the other thing is, it seems to me, we spent years looking at how to have this trail go past the 29th Street Bridge. And we finally settled on the alternative of having the trail be in the water on a pile supported structure, and have it emerge on the west side of the bridge, landfall be on the west side of the bridge. And we're about to, if we make the decision to adopt an inland route of this trail, we will be throwing all of that hard work that we spent years on out the window. And I, for one at least, am hesitant to do that. I think we did what we accomplished in evaluating and determining the feasibility of a route for the trail that goes underneath the bridge, the 29th Street Bridge, on a pile supported structure. I think that work was well done. And I'm hesitant to simply, as I say, throw it out the window. So for those two reasons, at this point, I would like to keep both options on the table. And as I say, if I'm the only one who feels that way, so be it.
We have hands for Stephen, Rick, and Myra.
Good. Somebody.
Rick.
Okay. Can I just suggest?
Go ahead.
Is that okay? That 50 million. We're hesitating over 2.7 million, and I agree with that hesitation. 50 million just seems to be, beyond what we can do at this point. But can we have a compromise where we elect to do this now, but put somewhere in our records that keep an eye out for opportunities to buy that property or something and do another route? We recognize that this is not the best alternative, but it's what we can do now.
Well, I'm not sure what that, Myra, I'm not sure where that 50 million comes from. But we're not talking about
the overlands.
We're not talking about buying any property here. The land that we would be putting this over the water,
would be okay,
is already in public ownership.
Yeah.
Okay, but it would cost $50 million. My understanding is more than $50 million to construct this trail.
I think the 50 million was relating to the overland trail, not the water. Rick, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree with John. As a bicyclist, I'm happy to see the inland trail because there's no good way to get through there. And I've talked with folks at Bike East Bay and with the Oakland Department of Transportation, and they are working on what appears to be a good resolution to get bicyclists through to Fruitvale Avenue on an inland trail. But as John said, what we really need is that shoreline trail that goes in a different direction, also has better access to Alameda. So I don't think we should just dismiss it out of hand. I think we should go forward. If ODOT has a plan for the inland trail, let them proceed with that, and let us proceed to see if we can't, in the longer term, get a waterfront trail.
Rick, do you know the timeline for the ODOT changes?
I do not. The issues there are plans for it. One of the issues is that 7th Street is in bad condition between 29th and Fruitvale, and really needs some substantial work to get bicyclists through there safely, because it's a narrow street with bad paving, etc. But they are nearing completion on the bike paths on both sides of Fruitvale Avenue, so it would connect very nicely to Fruitvale, and would get people like to the Fruitvale BART station and so forth. But again, I think both paths would make sense.
Jenny, did you have? Or, I guess. Back to you, Terry, I guess.
Did Steve Acker have comments? And I'll follow him.
That's what I wanted to say. Steve, did you? Steve?
Hi there. Sorry. Yeah, so I know I'm pretty new here, but I just wanted to echo the comments that Terry made about the permits, water board permits and any other state or local permits that require us to build the fence around that park and close out all the monitoring that we do need. And the reason why I bring that up is because without closing out, that part of your Measure DD projects, it'll be very difficult, if not impossible, to go out and sell more bonds under DD to finish any other wish list projects that you may have. It is not an ideal situation for any of us. It's, we're a city, it's, we don't get the benefit of a school district or a library or anywhere else where we get to kind of say that's not really our issue. It's an issue where, we have to consider those unhoused populations that are there. And it's incredibly difficult, but again, if that last piece isn't closed out, we don't really have any legitimacy to go back to the investors and say we need to sell more bonds under DD, which you still have the ability to do.
And thank you, Stephen. I wanted to add that there was an order of magnitude cost estimate that was completed, and the overwater estimate was just a little bit less than what was proposed, or what was estimated for the trail that we were working on that would go through those 3 properties. And I believe that it was in the $50 million range. So the cost to put the trail over the water would be $50 million. And I think it was a little bit more to build the trail on those 3 parcels. And I believe that the cost to do the trail on the city streets would be substantially less. And so, practically speaking, given, Measure DD and my involvement, I believe that we'll be most likely working to do the city street approach, or, recommending to the coalition that we do that, because it is going to take many, many years to try to piece together enough funding to do an overwater project. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, and just wanted to make the comment that if in considering an overwater project, you also have to consider the fact that some of those businesses do get served by ships that come into the dock at the back of those lots, and so over the water project would have to be elevated in order to not interfere with the service of those businesses by the ships that serve them. So that should be taken into account as well. Thank you.
Our observation when we did the visit was that there was only one of the 3 businesses that was actively using the waterfront, and that was the Star Marine project. There was no evidence that either Miller Milling or Cemex was using the estuary as a water access point. Terry, I wanted to ask is the 15 million, does the 15 million cost estimate that you referred to include land acquisition costs?
50 million and
50, sorry.
yeah, I think that high number may have included land acquisition. I have to look back at it, but yeah.
Well, that if that's the case, that reflects a misunderstanding of the land ownership pattern that we're dealing with here. The Oakland Alameda Estuary at this point, the submerged land underneath the estuary is owned by the East Bay Regional Park District. That is publicly owned land, and there should be no land acquisition or significant land acquisition issue with regard to our use of public land.
Yeah, I apologize. I did not mean that we would be, were you asking about the water trail or the trail on the 3 project parcels?
Well, the trail on the 3 parcels, you would obviously have to acquire the interest in those privately owned parcels.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, but for the cost of putting the trail over the water, we were not considering acquisitions. That is owned by East Bay Regional Park District, that land right there, I believe.
Yes.
We would have to get their permission, but yeah, that cost was, I thought, around $50 million. That did not include any acquisitions, just to be clear. But I will look that up.
I'll be honest with you, that sounds like a lot.
Okay.
I mean, I'll just throw that out there. I'm not a financial expert, but 50 million, we're talking about a pile supported trail for maybe 200 feet or 300 feet. And obviously there are going to have to be some provisions made, as James said. There is one of the 3 businesses, the Star Marine, that does use the estuary, that is moving boats in and out of their facility for repair or sale or whatever. And their needs for access to the estuary would have to be accommodated. There's no question about that. But aside from that, we're talking about a simple over the water trail that's supported by pilings, and for that distance, for you to give us an estimate of $15 million seems to me to be excessive.
I will, thank you. I'll go back to the project manager and we'll ask her to look back through that cost estimate that we received and mention that there's an interest in continuing to look at the possibility of an overwater trail. But at some point, I mean, actually, we are ready to make progress and build a trail and move on. We need to make our way through all of these Measure DD projects that are so difficult, and doing the water trail is going to be similar to what we've been dealing with, in my opinion, and would probably take many years, and we don't have enough funding for it. So I think it's going to be difficult. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm not sure who's next.
It's Rick, D, James, and then Suchin.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. There's been a lot of discussion of cost to DD of the inland trail, but in fact, the route via 7th Street to Fruitvale is already in the Department of Transportation plans for bike routes. So it's not clear to me that that's a Measure DD expense.
I see. That's okay. That's what you were saying earlier. Okay. I'm going to connect with DOT about that.
Check with Jason Patton. He can tell you what the plan is.
Okay. Actually, the project manager will check with him.
Okay. Thank you.
Jason Patton. Thank you.
D? Dee, you want to go?
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to say that, I mean, even despite East Bay Regional Park District owning the submerged lands, we would still need upland access to build that trail. We're finding that we're trying to make that connection from our Tidewater to High Street Bridge. We're still having to negotiate with some of the landowners there so we can have enough upland to construct a trail. So it's very complex. We're not, the Park District we're definitely working on that connection between Tidewater and High Street. And then the other sections, we're gonna just wait and see. The outboard motor is owned outright by them. They were moved from their original moorings, and they made a deal with Port of Oakland and they bought that property. And so unless they want to sell, or if some future generation doesn't want to keep up the land, then we would be definitely open to making that connection. So we're not totally giving up on that connection, but right now we're just concentrating on other areas. But it would be expensive regardless to build it over water, just because we still don't have enough upland to construct a trail.
Thanks, Dee. James?
I want to back up Terry on this. I think the consensus of the coalition, except for one person, is that we need to move on with regard to the Bay Trail between Union Point Park and 29th Avenue Bridge. And I think, while I certainly respect John's desire and his position to want to discuss this, but it's only being pushed by one person. I think if we're going to spend more time on that alternative, we should have a vote of the coalition to see if it's worth the additional time to spend on that, because I think everybody else is sort of in line with Terry's recommendations to move ahead, get past this point, because the other is just, it's going to be very expensive, take a long time, will probably turn out to be infeasible in the end. So I think we should follow the bulk of the coalition's desires and move ahead with Terry's recommendations.
Thank you.
Bill?
Terry, I think this is another example. You've indicated that the costs to build the over the water trail or the on land waterfront trail would be essentially about the same. And both of them are far in excess of what was anticipated. In fact, you're saying 50-something million. The entire section 2 of the bond is 54 million.
Yeah.
So how would we have gone as many years as we have in Measure DD planning to have a trail connection there and only now learn that it's too expensive? So this is another indication of why we need good fiscal information for us to be able to make sensible decisions.
Thank you. Agreed. Yeah. Thank you for that comment. The order of magnitude cost estimate was produced less than a year ago. And that information is what really helped us to determine that we needed to move on from this project. So, yeah. Well, it's my recommendation back to my management, and Sue Chen had her hand up. I don't know if she wants to make a comment. Sue Chen, are you still here? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I was going to make the comment that James and Dee basically express what I want to say. I appreciate what John is saying and expressing his support to continuing the project. However, after looking at the scope that is being proposed and exploring all the options that we have and talking to our consultants, the cost of construction is not minor. Right now, the rough cost of estimate that we have is roughly about 50 million plus and minus. But with going into detail and to more detail into the detailed design, the cost might be going higher, because like what Dee is saying, constructing over the water is not a simple, easy task. And Bill, I hear your frustration that why do we, how do we wait so long to get to this point? Definitely room for improvement that Terry and I are going to look into. Terry is in this acting position, and she has been very cautious and very active in looking all the projects, understanding what is possible, what is not. And we have been working really closely together. But to your point, Bill, we are going to do things a little bit different moving forward, looking at the projects in more great detail, and come back to the coalition with a sooner recommendation than later. But going back to this project, while I understand the interest of developing the trail over this section, it is going to be expensive, and it's going to have high risk due to the limitation that we have as far as property availability. So I like to concur with James' recommendation that perhaps the Measure DD Coalition can vote and support our recommendation not to further proceed with this project.
I just want to make one request of Terry, and this is a question of history. Did we not make a determination under Kristen Hathaway's jurisdiction that it was financially feasible to build a pile-supported portion of the trail that would go underneath the 29th Avenue Bridge? Didn't we? I mean, I was never aware that there was a financial barrier to building that part of the project. Am I mistaken in that regard? Did we do a financial analysis of the cost of that portion of the trail?
I would have to look into that. And when you say the 29th, are you talking about Park Street Bridge? No.
Yes. Same
Okay.
bridge, same bridge.
Right. So we did, I have to look and see what, I think we do have some preliminary cost estimates for that. Yes, but
okay,
I would have to get that. Right.
So maybe my question is, does the 50 million that you are stating as an estimate for what we're talking about as the over the water option include the portion of the pile supported structure underneath the bridge?
No.
Or is it no?
Definitely not. It's simply to connect Union Point Park to the beginning of that bridge, under the bridge crossing.
Okay, thank you.
Connection. Yeah. And that, if I'm not mistaken, that under the Park Street Bridge, we would be utilizing an existing like little sidewalk area that would be expanded out, and right, but yeah, we will provide that information, and I'll have I'll see if the project manager can come to the next meeting, who has all of these details memorized. So great. I will ask if Rebecca Dar can come to that meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. But I will say though that I just wanted to see, is it possible for us to, well, I think that the city has to make a decision based on the information that we have. And we are hearing from the coalition an overwhelming, recommendation to not proceed with trying to build an over the water trail connection. And so is there a way for us to just move on and get an official recommendation from the coalition?
I think I made that motion. So
Okay.
is there somebody who will second it, please?
I second it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can
Tamara, go ahead.
is there a chance to do this subject to a review of the cost if John feels that maybe the cost estimate was mistaken?
I don't remember that discussion, and Rick Ricard would be the person who has been most involved with this project historically, and we never voted on any such estimate. So, and that estimate was years and years ago. So I think it's time to move on.
So we have a seconded motion on the floor to take a vote on this. It's been a while since we've actually voted on anything. Do we just do raised hand on Zoom, or should we take
Well, you
this
can
to
just
a
see
larger?
if there are any objections.
I guess I have a question.
Go ahead, David. What's your question, David?
Yeah, I understand the motion. If it were not to pass, or if it weren't made, I'm not sure I'm clear on what the alternative to that would be. I understand that I hear a call from staff to be given direction. And if this motion were to fail or were not made, I'm not clear on where that leaves us. And I don't know if that's needed for this motion, but I wanted to say that before we took the vote.
I'm willing to withdraw the motion. I don't think there's a need for it. I think unless we are in disagreement with staff's recommendations, then there's no need for a motion if we're in agreement with Terry's recommendations. And that was my original motion, that we concur with the recommendation. And so I can take the motion back and we just proceed. Staff has made a recommendation. We didn't object to it. So that's the way staff will be moving.
May I ask for a point of clarity then? So if we were to, in any form or fashion, go forward with our planning about an inland location, would that preclude any kinds of observations or investigations regarding the water front project?
Yes, that's not in Terry's recommendations at this point. At this point, we've been over 6 years talking about this and spending a lot of money on it. Staff is saying, let's discard that alternative at this point and just move ahead with a surface crossing. And I think I don't object to staff's recommendation, and unless there's a majority that objects, we don't need a motion. The staff will have the direction that they need.
I understand. Thank you.
And just adding to that we will check with Jason Patton to understand the bike trail that they're working on from, on the city streets that will connect Union Point Park to the other side of the Park Street Bridge. And we can understand if there is any kind of a Measure DD funded project that we would come to you to recommend once we know more about DOT's project.
Sounds reasonable. Thank you.
It seems to me like the question would be whether or not the coalition felt comfortable with whatever cost and actions that are amounted to by going forward with the inland process, and whether or not that offsets our ability to consider the water side process.
Well, they haven't begun to work on the inland project yet, so we have to wait until they begin to work on it, David, and then they can come back and let us know what the cost ramifications are. And I think Terry just said that, so it seems to me that we should just move on with her recommendation, and she will come back to us when they get further along on it.
I'd like to make a comment here, and I want to remind everybody that the concept of this 400-mile trail, Bayside Trail, all around the bay, fabulous idea, is going to take, you know, maybe a century to completely complete. We're doing the best we can with the money we have to complete as much as we can, but there are going to be gaps, just as there are going to be gaps all the way around. And I've said this before, but when you look at the Appalachian Trail, over 100 years old, Georgia to Maine, they are still improving the route because conditions change, people die, opportunities come forward. This is just because we don't have another 6 years to try to figure this out and unlimited amounts of money now doesn't mean at some time the opportunity may arise. And I take heart when Dee says East Bay Regional Park District will keep its eyes out, keep looking at this. So this is the door. We need to move on now. We need to stop twirling in the wind and tying ourselves in knots now. But let's move on, do what we can with the money we have, where we have willing sellers, and be thankful that East Bay Regional Parks and Oakland in the future will have the opportunity to keep looking for improvements.
Bill?
Let's just request that staff archive all the records associated with the planning that's gone forward this far to meet this goal, so that if in the future there's a reason to reinvestigate it, we don't have to start from ground zero.
Okay. Good point.
Okay, we kind of, so I think the motion was removed. We're not objecting as a coalition to the staff recommendation. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
That's correct. So we don't need a vote.
All right.
We can move the agenda.
Yeah, so it is now 9 o'clock. We had 4 additional agenda items. How should we proceed? Would we mind pushing?
Would you accept a motion to extend for 10 minutes or 15 minutes?
I certainly would.
I'll second.
Katie, could I potentially ask you to save your presentation for next meeting? Sorry, you're on mute.
I would like to share a screen and just share some good news, which would probably take about 2 or 3 minutes. And it would be 2 months. It would be, I think it's really kind of good to show it now.
Okay, so you want to do it tonight? Just
yes,
I just was just asking a question.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
So
yes.
the first thing we had was a discussion on 7th Street station questions. John, was this we didn't actually have a name on this. Terry has been facilitating some additional questions and answers with 7th Streets.
Adrian, want me to help you out here? I mean, John can also speak, but I can say, I could say something if you want.
Sure.
Okay. Some questions were sent to us by John and some others. I can't remember who else. I apologize. We took those questions and figured out how to boil them down, and we sent those, like we just kind of clarified what are we asking of the flood control district, and we sent an email to the flood control. I sent it to John Medlock at the flood control district on December 15th, and he has not gotten back to me. And so I will give him a reminder. These were some clarifying questions that several of you had that were in relation to the answers to your questions that you all compiled previously. So you compiled a bunch of questions. I sent them to the flood control district. They provided answers. Then you all had follow-up questions. We sent those follow-up questions to the district. I will remind them that we're waiting for an answer.
So
Okay.
we'll have a discussion when we have some more data.
Yeah.
Mandolin, can you help give Katie access to screen share? Is up next. Or sorry, it would be Hazel. Apologies.
She should have access.
Katie, you should have access.
I think I have access. Let's see if I, okay. I'm not seeing all of what I can see. Okay.
We can see the two maps.
Yeah, I had some text up there too. Can I try one more time just to reposition and try one more time? One more time, sorry. Whoops. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, that now hopefully I will be able to, you'll be able to see what I'd like you to see, make it easier for me to explain to you what I'd like to explain. So,
well, we can't see anything right now.
you should be now, right? Can you see now?
Yes, we see it.
Thank you. I'm sorry about the slowness here. Okay, so I was part of the group that had questions for the flood control station and concerns about the draft proposal or whatever, which is not a manual, as I understand, that we are requesting the flood control station to implement, which in part had floodgate closures during the daytime for a variety of reasons. But anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. What I'd like to share is data that was been collected by Rotary Nature Center Friends, an independent, educational, nonprofit, all volunteer. We've been working with about 50 young people, and also with the Oakland, California Climate Action Corps fellows to collect data on water quality in Lake Merritt, with a professional sonde, which measures a bunch of different water quality indicators, but among the ones that are of most concern to people because of the fish kill is dissolved oxygen. And what you see on the left screen here is a picture of Lake Merritt with these black boxes on it. This represents the the very, very low dissolved oxygen concentration in the water in Lake Merritt on August 28th, 2022. The top square in any situation represents the upper part of the water column, and then the lower one, it would be at the bottom near the sediment. And you can see that everything was zero back there when we had the fish kill. On the right, I'm not going to be able to, no, I'm not going to be able to move that well. On the right, we have January 2024. We've been collecting data with various groups of volunteer people wherever possible, involving young people who are acquiring skills and knowledge and a stake in trying to understand the environment that we live in. So The one on the right is from January, I believe January 2nd or January 4th. And it is, we've been seeing water quality with a higher dissolved oxygen content than the water quality objective of the EPA, which is 5 parts per million. We've been going out in the last month and a half between the various rains that we've had before and after. We have seen tide gate closures. We've seen low oxygen that is not persistent. And I think I'm really, I'm thanking the city, Lake Merritt Institute, Lake Tech for putting in the buoys that are giving us some information. This gives us kind of a different kind of information, a wider number of locations in the lake, and our equipment is calibrated, and we don't have a problem with fouling and enduring 24/7 extreme conditions that Lake Merritt can subject you to. So I just want to say that we experienced a terrible low oxygen event in the summer of 22 due to a harmful algal bloom that has not returned. Don't understand all the dynamics that led to its blooming and led to the low dissolved oxygen in the fish kill. But all of this data, I'm hoping, is going to help us have that understanding in the future. And I wanted to say that please keep in mind the people in the community who are interested and who are learning, who are out there gathering relevant information. So thank you for your time. If you have questions, I shared the spreadsheet that on which these data are based. There's like a couple more maps down below this one. And you can certainly send me an email, ktnoon@aol.com, and I can converse with you about what we have done and what we've collected. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for sharing, Katie, and thanks for all the work that you put into this.
And you, Adrian, you get people reporting on the condition of the tide gates by direct observation all the time, as well as the Lake Tech depth charts that give us some indication of where the lake gates are open or closed to kind of, anyway, so thank you. Thank you to everybody who's been eyes on the lake. Can I, oh, here I can stop. Thank you.
Thanks
very much.
Terry, in-person meetings, what intel do we have on city rooms or city options? You're on mute.
So we checked into whether or not we could use some hearing rooms at City Hall. And yes, we can. They didn't have any available for tonight. But yes, at our next meeting, we could meet in hearing room 2. And they're tentatively holding that for us. And they provided us with paperwork that we would fill out so that we could reserve hearing room 2 for the next, maybe for the whole year. We'll look into that, but for the next several meetings we asked about. And so yeah, we could do that. And we could also reserve, well, I went to a meeting at 666 Bellevue. I went to a PrAC meeting, and it wasn't so bad. And that is such a nice meeting location and maybe a better place to be from 7 to 9 on a Monday night. And so I haven't checked to see if 666 Bellevue is available and what is involved, but I just wanted to find out from you all if you're interested in just going with City Hall or if you want to look into 666 Bellevue. The thing that I found is that you can do a hybrid meeting there because they're doing hybrid meetings. So we just look into more about the logistics of how that works. And also the weird thing is that you have to project the presentation on the back wall. So we just have to set up the seating to accommodate where the presentation is showing. so that people don't have to strain their neck turning around to look at the presentation. So that's what we found out.
And I just comment short about, I was at that PrAC meeting too. Lest we remember, there was a 30-minute technical difficulty delay.
That's true.
And they had 6 city staff employees to help sort that out. And I'm just would want that kind of support in addition to supporting the meeting. We don't have that kind of capacity, and that still didn't go technically well. Just
Mandolin, thank you for bringing that up. And I assure you that that's top of my mind. And I would ask them if that has been resolved, like what happens? And is it something that's easy or hard? And so thank you. That's a good point.
A point about meeting in the Ebel room at the garden center. Because of Bill Threlfall's good work, we were able to avoid paying for custodial services by piggybacking on the Orchid Society's meetings. The Orchid Society, for instance, always meets on the Monday that is the Martin Luther King holiday. And by virtue of piggybacking on those meetings, the Measure DD coalition did not incur custodial costs. So if we're going to go back to the Ebel room, which is a lovely place and plenty of parking and easy to be there, but wouldn't probably allow for might not allow for the hybrid. Bear in mind that if we make that decision, we should probably touch base to get the dates of the Orchid Society so we avoid the custodial cost.
Got it. And then how do people feel about hearing room 2 at City Hall?
James?
James.
Parking feels more difficult for me there, but
I would much prefer the garden center. I just think it's much more accessible. Parking is much easier. That's my opinion.
James, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Well, well, with regard to this question itself, I would prefer the garden center also. That's where we met before. And as Jenny said, there were arrangements that could be made that made that very convenient. I would only add that at some point, maybe we should get the feeling of the group, because I think if we take the garden center, we should probably do it without being a hybrid, that it's an in-person meeting, or we continue with Zoom. So to me, it's one or the other. It's still between those two choices: continue on Zoom or go back to in-person meetings at the garden center like we used to under the arrangements that we had before. And then
sorry.
Go ahead. I think I'm going to be recognized before we tune out. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead,
Jay,
Neil.
your last comment, were you saying garden center in person or Zoom and drop the hybrid at City Hall?
Yes. No, I didn't even mention City Hall. To me, it's either garden center or Zoom.
And I just wanted to say that Mandolin's point about not really having a lot of staff support for hybrid meetings is a real one, like, and I will find out really what's involved with that. But yeah, we all did sit there for about 30 minutes waiting for them to sort out the hybrid meeting. Many city staff. So I like the idea of one or the other personally.
I'm not sure how to resolve this question exactly. There's no city requirement that we be hybrid for them.
Is the question, is there a strong feeling about wanting to meet in person? And at the next meeting, maybe we just do it one meeting at a time. Is there a strong desire to meet in person? Because if there's not, then why don't we continue on Zoom?
I agree with that.
Agreed.
All right, well, I'm not hearing anyone object. I might be the only one who objects because I'm tired of doing the facilitation.
Well, at least the next meeting can be by Zoom, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we will meet Zoom next meeting and continue this discussion, or maybe have this discussion every meeting. I think we're on to announcements.
Wait a minute, me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, go ahead, James.
Yeah, very short. First of all, can I get the email for Hazel Tesoro?
And I will put that in the chat.
Okay. All right, and next to that is at some point there's a document regarding the coalition organization that was put together. We did have it at one meeting, and we didn't take action on it. But for instance, even on the election of co-chairs, there's nothing in the present website or that has been archived about that. So this document was meant to sort of put together those basic elements of our mission and our and how we're organized. And I would like to be able to send that to Hazel and have Hazel distribute it to all the members of the coalition so that at the next meeting, we can decide whether we want to adopt it and archive it, but at least it sort of it sort of defines us, puts us on the map. So I'd just like to have have the okay to have Hazel distribute that when I send it to her.
Okay by me. Any
James,
objections?
James, do you envision putting that on the Measure DD website?
Yes, but we would need to adopt it first. We would need to act on it. We discussed it, and there was just one question that came up about it last time it was discussed, which was a couple years ago. But I think it could easily be agreed to or not agreed to, and if it's agreed to, then it will go on the DD website.
Can we put that on the agenda for next meeting?
Yes. And,
Can the document be attached to the agenda as something that's being considered during the meeting?
that could also be done too, but
Right.
it could be distributed so people have an opportunity to read it in advance of the meeting. But certainly it could be screen shared at the meeting when it's on the agenda, and we can decide whether or not we want to adopt it. Okay, I'm trying to find Hazel's email. Okay.
We put that in the chat.
Yes, I got it. I got it.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, it's in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, James. All right. Announcements. I think.
Yes.
Katie, go ahead.
Yes, I've already put some information in chat. The next Lakeside chat is going to be on February 2nd with James Irvin, who is from the San Jose Water Treatment Plant. He's going to be talking about nutrients in San Francisco Bay. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about nutrients in Lake Merritt as well. Very knowledgeable person. This is free by Zoom, and we have event by registration for that. I also wanted to mention that on March 12th and 13th, there will be a big meeting of the San Francisco Estuary Partnership at the Henry J. Kaiser Auditorium, called the State of the Estuary Conference. And a lot of really good talks are being there. It's well worth visiting the website and seeing what is going to be under discussion there. And I think that is, if anybody has any questions about the water quality data that I very quickly and hastily put together to show you, please email me, and I put my email in the, I'm putting it in the chat right now. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Weed Warriors, Jenny?
I put that in the chat. I just want to
Next,
make sure you know it's this Saturday, 9 to 12. Tools and gloves provided. Show up at the Parkland on Lakeside Drive across from the entrance to Snow Park, and you'll have a great time pulling weeds. It'll be so easy because the rains have made the soil soft. These weeds will just jump out of the ground into your hands.
Bob, do you want to talk about Conservancy?
Yeah, most of my information about the Conservancy is in the chat. Many of you have attended the last 6 months where we were gathering information, opinions, and we're getting really organized now. We're in the process of being incorporated. We're going to slow it down a little bit and having some smaller meetings. And anybody that would like to participate, just contact me and check the chat information. Thank you.
And the final item was Dr. Bailey now has a Facebook page reporting about water quality. Katie, I don't know if you have that link somewhere. I do not.
I don't know if we have it immediately. I could try. Let me see.
Okay. Do we want to quickly? I know we're already half an hour late, but assign tasks and agenda suggestions. Myra, have you, Myra or Hazel?
Does Hazel have a list that she's? Okay, let me go over very quickly.
I do. Sorry, I was trying to find it with Facebook.
Maybe Hazel didn't know about that.
No, she did a great job last time. So
I have it. So I put the Dr. Bailey's Facebook page link in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Thanks,
And
Hazel.
then let's see. So Terry will email project manager regarding recommendation for lightweight concrete. And also ask about previous public works job. Ask if any funds for Lake Merritt channel fence will come from developers working on Henry J. Kaiser Auditorium. Reach out to EVRPD to get updates on progress sorry, this is progress of the district trail sites that there were no updates on. Get more information on last bullet for the acquisitions update slide. Follow up on 2.7 million for 10th Street fencing, what that is going to come out of, what other project. Check with project manager on cost estimate regarding Union Point Park and possibility of I put this down before the consensus was made that we would go with Terry's recommendation for the inland trail, but to check with the ODOT on the bike trail that is in progress. Get preliminary cost estimates for Union Point Park ask project manager Rebecca Dar to come to the next meeting to give updates on park. Follow up with.
So is that, so do we want to do that? Excuse me, Hazel.
Yeah.
Given what we decided, we still want to hear from her?
Either that or archive what's been done on that, so that if it is revisited in the future, you won't have to start from scratch. These are just the notes I put down.
Right. I think that's where we ended up.
Okay, so
There's one more at the beginning, and that was to review the recording of the what is it, the November meeting, and to see if the minutes reflected that correctly, and you were to work with Terry on reviewing that and making corrections or revisions if necessary.
Yes, but what I didn't say at the beginning is that I do review the recordings after when I work on the minutes. So I will review the recording again just to make sure I didn't miss anything, but I did already do that before. Yeah. Okay, so and then follow up with FCD regarding, flood control district regarding follow-up questions from the coalition. So that's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin.
I'm sorry, did I just zone out? We were really counting on next time the financial report that
Yes.
I know Terry has been working hard on and trying to get to us.
Yes, that is at the top of my to-do list here, and I think that I'll get the support I need to be successful to provide that information to you all next time.
I think the question was it on Hazel's list?
I see.
Yes, and I will, I'll compare it with the other the action items from the past minutes, because I just want to make sure if there was anything else that we missed.
In that fiscal report, to include the vision and strategy for use of tranche D, the rest of tranche D, I think that goes with 2.7 million. And again, and part of that is also the CIP funding allocations. All of that kind of goes together in the fiscal report. Did we say get an update from the Glen Echo consultant?
Yeah.
Okay. And we did the concrete control. And we had for today, the project manager was to present the Lake Merritt Water Quality Management Report. Was Katie's report sufficient for that, or do we need to put that for next time?
That was Katie's thing, so.
Oh, no, 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 that is
what?
not my thing. No, I think we would like to hear from the city management project, I believe.
Okay. All right. And we also we would like to have, I think on the agenda, adopting James' document. I'm not clear on what it is, but James, we'll discuss that at the next meeting.
Yes, it's a Measure DD organization document.
Okay.
We'll review it for possible action, yeah.
Okay. And we'll have that down for you, right, James?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate everyone staying on the extra, especially